They drank from the skulls of their enemies. And when Alexander the Great reached their borders, he turned back. 2,500 years later, Siberian ice revealed why. In 1929, a Soviet archaeologist named Sergei Rudenko began excavating strange mounds in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. Local herders had warned him the sites were cursed. What Rudenko found inside would haunt archaeology for the next century. Beneath layers of stone and earth lay chambers filled with ice. And frozen within that ice were bodies that looked like they had died yesterday. Their skin still showed color. Their muscles remained intact. Their hair still held elaborate braids. But here is where it gets strange. These people have been dead for over 2,000 years. The permafrost had created accidental time capsules, preserving everything the ancient world had tried to bury. And the secrets they held would change everything historians believed about so-called barbarian civilizations. The Scythians ruled the largest empire the ancient world had ever seen. From the borders of China to the gates of Greece, these horse warriors controlled territory that dwarfed Rome at its peak. Yet they built no cities. They left no libraries. They carved no monuments with their names. Instead, they lived and died on horseback, following herds across endless grasslands. Greek historians called them hippotoxotai, horse archers, and described them with a mixture of terror and fascination. Herodotus wrote that no enemy who invades their country can escape destruction. The Persians learned this lesson when Darius the Great marched 500,000 soldiers into Scythian territory in 513 BCE. The Scythians simply retreated, burning everything behind them. Darius limped home with a fraction of his army. And this is where I need you to pay attention. The man who would conquer the known world studied this defeat carefully. Alexander of Macedon had conquered Egypt. He had crushed the Persian Empire. By 329 BCE, his army had never known defeat. Then he reached the Jaxartes River, the northern edge of the known world. Beyond it lay Scythian territory. The horse warriors lined the opposite bank, firing arrows and shouting insults across the water. Alexander's generals begged him not to cross. But Alexander was Alexander. He ordered boats constructed. He led the charge himself. The Scythians did something unexpected. They retreated. Alexander pursued them into the endless grasslands. And this is where the greatest conqueror in history made a decision that historians still debate. He stopped. He turned his army around. He never entered Scythian territory again. Some say illness forced his retreat. Others claim he recognized something his predecessors had not. You cannot defeat an enemy who refuses to fight on your terms. The frozen tombs revealed what Alexander likely saw. Scythian warriors were not primitive barbarians. They were perhaps the most sophisticated cavalry force the ancient world ever produced. Every adult, male and female, trained from childhood to fight on horseback. Their composite bows could pierce armor at 300 feet while riding at full gallop. But the tombs showed something more disturbing. Scythian culture revolved around warfare and death in ways Greeks and Persians could barely comprehend. Enemies were not just killed. Their skulls became drinking cups. Their scalps became hand towels. Their skin was tanned into leather for quivers. Think about that for a second. These were not acts of random cruelty. They were religious rituals, offerings to gods who demanded proof of valor. And the evidence lay frozen in Siberian ice, waiting 25 centuries to be found. But here is what nobody expected to find. The Scythians were artists. And their art has never been equaled. The frozen bodies emerged from the ice covered in elaborate tattoos depicting mythological creatures, animals locked in combat, intricate geometric patterns that wrapped around entire limbs. These were not crude markings. They demonstrated understanding of anatomy, perspective, and composition that would not appear in Western art for another 2,000 years. One female warrior, now called the Siberian Ice Maiden, wore tattoos so detailed that modern tattoo artists study them for technique. Her body also contained cannabis residue. The Scythians used the drug in religious ceremonies, building small tents and inhaling the smoke while mourning their dead. Herodotus described this ritual. Scholars dismissed it as exaggeration. The frozen tombs proved the father of history correct. If you want to see where this story leads, make sure you are subscribed. The gold changed everything. Scythian tombs contained more gold than any other ancient burial sites ever discovered. Solid gold headdresses. Gold-plated weapons. Gold ornaments depicting animals in a style so distinctive it became known as the Scythian animal style. But where did nomads who built no cities get this much gold? The answer lay in their location. The Scythians controlled the ancient Silk Road 1,000 years before it had that name. Every caravan traveling between China and the Mediterranean passed through their territory. They did not just raid these merchants. They taxed them, protected them, became essential middlemen in the greatest trade network the ancient world had ever seen. And this leads to a question nobody can fully answer. What happened next shocked everyone who studied them. This empire of gold and horses vanished almost completely from history. By the 3rd century CE, the Scythians had ceased to exist as a distinct people. Climate change pushed new nomadic groups westward. The Sarmatians, then the Huns, swept across the steppes. Some Scythians were absorbed into these new confederations. Others fled south, their bloodlines merging with Persian and Greek populations. But here is the revelation that changes everything. The Scythians never truly disappeared. Their legacy shaped every steppe empire that followed. The Mongols used the same tactics that defeated Darius and turned back Alexander. Composite bows, feigned retreats, refusing pitched battle. Genghis Khan's army was essentially Scythian warfare perfected. I want you to remember this part. When the Mongols swept across Asia and Europe 1,000 years later, they were fighting exactly like the frozen warriors in Siberian tombs. The Scythians built no monuments. But they created a military tradition that conquered the world twice. The frozen tombs continue to yield secrets. As climate change melts Siberian permafrost, new burial sites emerge every year. Each one contains potential discoveries that could rewrite ancient history again. In 2021, archaeologists found a previously unknown Scythian burial with gold artifacts never seen before. The ice that preserved the Scythians for 25 centuries is now destroying them. Researchers race against time to excavate before the permafrost disappears forever. And perhaps that is the final lesson of the Scythians. Empires that seem eternal vanish. Written records crumble. Stone monuments fall. But sometimes, through accidents of climate and geography, the dead speak louder than the living ever could. The warriors who terrified Alexander the Great left no words behind. They left something better. They left themselves, frozen in time, waiting to tell their story to anyone willing to dig through the ice.